How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be the Q&A of this week. So the last couple weeks I haven't done a video. It was Memorial Day weekend, and then I lost my voice, so I couldn't do a video or this video last week. So here we are today. So I do apologize for that. But obviously, if I couldn't get a clear, video across, then it would be kind of pointless. So anyways, here we are. Let's get right to it. The first question is just kind of elaborate on the Honda HR-V CVT transmission recall or warranty extension. So I'm just kind of read right off the bulletin some of the information. So we are doing software updates. This is on 16 to 20 HR-Vs, all trims. There is VIN range apparently, but I believe it affects most of them, if not all of them. But if the car's been in some sort of a collision, or for some reason it has a salvage title, then it's possible that Honda will not cover that for that reason. So anyways, so we are doing a PCM software update, and we're checking them. Kind of looks like the rising sun. So and then that will determine if the trans already has some issues or not. But if it passes that, there is a recall software update regardless that adds a code to kind of give it a premature warning of an issue and give the customer a chance to get to a dealer before it causes a non-drivability concern. Now, if all that is missed, if for some reason you didn't get the software update, for whatever reason you bought the car used, or you just didn't go to the dealer when you did own the car, or whatever the case may be, and the trans happens to fail, there is a 7-year or 150,000 mile extension from the date of purchase, the original date of purchase, not when you purchased it, used, for instance, or you bought it pre-certified or whatever, just from the original date of purchase. And what happens is the belt deteriorates and the transmission at that point is scrapped. So there is a warranty extension for that. So kudos to Honda for that, for addressing this and kind of taking responsibility for that. So if you happen to have one of these vehicles, definitely make sure you get to your dealer ASAP and get the software update performed. And again, if it happens to fail on you, then there is that warranty extension, which would be 100% free to you. All right, so the next question was, I know this owner has an Acura 2.0T highly modified. So his question was, can you trade in your car modified or damaged in for another car? He actually mentioned a TLX Type S specifically, I think. But regardless, it applies to everything. And you could trade in your car modified. Obviously, that's going to be dealer to dealer basis. And they might want to obviously give you a lot less money for it. They don't care that it's modified. They don't care that you spent X amount of money on it. That doesn't matter to them. They're going to give you whatever they feel is acceptable and necessary to either take in the car that way or put it back to a stock condition. Same thing applies if the car is damaged. So paint damage, body damage, wheel damage, suspension damage, airbags, blown engine, whatever the case may be. People trade in their cars all the time. And obviously after we perform our multi-point inspection, or even if you skip service department entirely, that salesperson should be going outside and kind of taking a look at it, make sure there's no lights on, make sure it drives, etc., and give you the value based off of that. So absolutely, you can trade in a modified car as long as it's running and no check engine lights or anything like that, no crazy modifications. At that point, you might as well just part out the car, put it back to stock, and bring it in that in a stock-ish form. But yeah, you could trade it in, and again, they're gonna base off the market value off of your modifications or the damage or whatever the case may be. Personal opinion, make the car as stock as possible, get some money back for those parts that you have installed, and trade it in. That way you're gonna make a lot more money, and it's gonna be a lot more fair and a lot less confusing on both sides. So yeah, don't get upset at any salesman if they're gonna undercut you because they have to put the car back to stock to make it drivable. And for a normal person that's not an enthusiast to want to purchase that car. So another person had a question of their Accord wearing out tires faster in the rear than the front. So I'm not sure if there's some sort of suspension damage with this. This is kind of a broad question, but we do see a lot of cupping in the rear tires on basically the whole lineup of Honda. And cupping essentially is you have one tread that's higher than the other and wearing out in a fashion like this. So, and that happens a lot when we see a lack of rotation. So if you do have any of these Hondas, Acuras, anything like that, or any car in general, I recommend rotation every other oil change, or about every, let's say, 7,000 to 10,000 miles max. And then like that, that's gonna make sure it's wearing out as even as possible, and just make sure that you get the most out of your tires. Now, if your tires happen to cup, then at that point, you're just gonna have to deal with the noise. It's not unsafe to drive or anything. You are gonna have some loss of traction and like some extreme conditions. The average person won't know it, you know, driving from point A to point B. Now, if you have some sort of a camber or toe issue, that's gonna cause even more excessive tire wear, and that would be directly related to maybe a lot of weight in the back. So if you have a lot of stuff in your trunk, or you carry a lot of people and weight in the trunk, if you do Uber or something like that, then it's possible that's going to cause some excessive wear. And if that's the case, in that case, I would buy an adjustable camber arms. When you get your alignment done, do the alignment with some weight in the back. And you don't want to add all the way, because obviously sometimes you're going to have none of those people there, for instance, right? If you're having a couple 100 pounds of people, you want to kind of be in between. So I would get an adjustable camber arm kit and kind of put the specs in between, you know, for a car fully loaded and a car with just you in it. So, and I think that will definitely help some of that situation. Now, if the car's been in an accident, if you have you kissed a curb or anything like that, then and something's clearly off, then that will obviously give you an excessive wear. Doesn't matter if it's in the front or the back. If it's in the back, it's gonna wear out the back. If it's in the front, it's gonna wear out the front. So make sure that your alignment is done once a year or every 12 to 15,000 miles. If you live in an area like I do, there's potholes everywhere and they're pretty much impossible to miss. So again, it's just kind of a broad question. I try to touch on all the points and all the possibilities that could you know, be contributing to some of that tire wear. Also, make sure your tires are not over or under inflated. That's going to give you some wacky you know, wear as well as weak shocks. So if your shocks are weak and the tire's bouncing around a lot, it's going to cause some funky wears as well, like some feathering or, you know, stuff like that. So hopefully that answers that question for you. So this is the last question to this week's Q&A. If you want one of your questions answered, then make sure you guys drop me a comment down below, and I'll do my best to answer each and every one of your questions. Some questions I'm not going to address because I'm going to make a dedicated video to it. For example, some of carbon buildup and some solutions I think that might work, and VCM. I get a whole bunch of VCM questions and my opinions on it. So I'm just going to make a couple different videos pertaining to those. But anyways, moving on to the question is my opinion on the 2.0T, and am I concerned with it, you know, blowing head gaskets like the 1.5T. And the Accord 2.0T has been very, very reliable, very resistant to any real damage or anything like that. There's tons of guys throwing a lot of power at these cars, and both the engine and transmission have been super, super reliable. Now, recently I did come across one 2.0T that blew the head gasket. I made a short on it. And I do know of one particular person that blew two head gaskets on two different 2.0Ts, both of them modified, and the guy does take full responsibility for being pretty aggressive with the car. So anything turbo, direct injection, you know, in today's day and age is going to have more wear and tear versus something naturally aspirated, especially turbo. So of course, these cars down the line, I don't expect them to go problem free as you know, as long as like Honda's J series or Honda's K series, as well as long as they're both you know, maintained to the same level. So I think the turbo engines just by default are going to have more stuff fail, you know, more moving parts, higher heat in the combustion chamber and stuff like that, higher temperatures, more detonation prone and stuff like that. So in comparison to the 1.5T, it's night and day. It's also a huge sample size difference. But again, the 2.0T has been thrown a whole bunch of power at it, and they've been holding up very, very well versus the 1.5T that is blowing head gaskets. A lot of times on grandma and grandpa, mom and pop driven Accords and CRVs and Civics and stuff like that. So it's a big difference when you compare the two as far as that perspective. So if you do own one of those cars, they're great engines. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of the 10AT as well. And I wouldn't necessarily be concerned with anything like that, not in the earlier stages at least. And just do your due diligence, maintain it, use premium fuel, and that will go a long way as far as reliability and ensuring that, you get the most out of it. Now, if it happens to fail at 150, 200K, wouldn't really necessarily surprise me. Although that, depends on case by case, depends how you drive it, what area you're in, fuel that you use, etc., maintenance history, you fill in the blank. And just be honest with yourself. If you are an aggressive driver, you're just gonna need more maintenance. It is what it is. I made a full video on maintenance suggestions for the average consumer, as well as a more aggressive or a modified vehicle. I'm also gonna have one specifically to the TLX Type S and what I do personally on my own car. So with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.